3, 2, 1.
Real Madrid had Endrick. And not just Endrick the player. Endrick the idea, Endrick the expectation, Endrick the future that people were already talking about, before he even had the chance to prove anything. Because that's how football works now. You don't wait for players to become great. You decide they are great before they even arrive. And Endrick was one of those players, the kind of player people label early, the kind of player people believe in instantly, the kind of player people expect to explode. And when you hear all that, you expect something. You expect to see him. You expect minutes. You expect moments. You expect mistakes. You expect growth, because that's what young players need. They need time. They need space. They need freedom. But that's not what he got. Because when the game started, when the real football began, he wasn't there. Not in the starting 11. Not in the key moments. Not when the game needed something different. And at first, people didn't notice, because at Real Madrid, there is always something happening. Always another star. Always another headline, always another performance. So if one player doesn't play, it doesn't feel like a problem. At least not immediately. But over time, things start to change. Because absence becomes noticeable. Because potential without presence starts to feel strange. And slowly, people begin to ask questions. Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he getting minutes? Why isn't he involved? And the answers are never simple. Because from the outside, it looks easy. He just needs to wait. He just needs time. He just needs patience. But that's not how it works inside the game. Because time without opportunity is not development. It's delay. Time without trust is not growth. It's stagnation. And time without minutes is the worst thing that can happen to a young player. Because football is rhythm. It's repetition. It's decision-making under pressure. And you can't build that sitting on the bench. You can't simulate it. You can't imagine it. You have to live it. Again, and again, and again. And Endrick wasn't living it. He was watching it from the outside. And that changes everything. Because when you stop playing, you don't just lose minutes. You lose confidence. You lose instinct. You lose that natural feeling of the game. And slowly, you start thinking more than playing. You hesitate, you doubt, you overanalyze, and that's when talent starts to disappear. Not because it's gone, but because it's buried. Buried under pressure, buried under expectation, buried under the fear of making a mistake. And for a young player, that's the most dangerous place to be, because you're no longer developing, you're surviving. And when survival becomes the focus, everything changes. Your decisions, your movement, your identity as a player, you're no longer expressing yourself, you're protecting yourself. And that's when something inside shifts. Because at some point, you stop asking, how do I succeed here? And you start asking, do I even belong here? And that question is the beginning of every big decision. Because once doubt enters, everything else follows. And for Endrick, that moment came. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, slowly. Game by game, moment by moment, until the situation became clear. Staying meant waiting. Waiting meant risking everything. And leaving became the only way forward. So he made the decision, not the easy decision, not the popular decision, but the necessary one. He left. Because here's the truth that people don't always want to hear. Real Madrid is not a development club. It never was. It's a performance club, a results club, a club built to win now, not to wait, not to experiment, not to give chances just because someone has potential. And that changes everything for a young player. Because when you arrive there, you're not entering a system that is built around you. You're entering a system that already works, a system that already has stars, a system that already delivers results. And that system doesn't stop for anyone, not even for talent. Because talent alone is not enough, not at that level, not in that environment. You need something more. You need timing. You need opportunity. You need trust. And without those, talent becomes invisible. And that's exactly what happened. Because when you look at the squad, you understand the situation immediately. Players like Vinicius Jr. are not just playing, they are leading, they are decisive, they are winning games. Players like Rodrigo are not just part of the team. They are trusted, they are reliable, they are already proven. So when a young player arrives, he's not competing with players at his level. He's competing with players above his level. Players who don't lose their place easily. Players who don't give you space. And in that situation, minutes are not given. They have to be taken, but how do you take minutes if you don't get the chance to play? how do you prove yourself? If you're not on the pitch, how do you grow? If you're not allowed to make mistakes? And that's where the system becomes a problem. Not because it's wrong, but because it's not built for players like him. It's built for players who are already ready, already complete, already consistent. And if you're not that yet, you don't fit, not immediately. And in football, not immediately, can quickly become not at all. And then there's something people don't talk about enough. The mental side, because pressure at Real Madrid is different. It's constant. It's everywhere. It's in the stadium, in the media, in the fans, and eventually it gets into your head. And once it's there, it changes everything. Because football is not just physical, it's not just technical, it's psychological. And when your mind changes, your game changes. You stop reacting naturally. You start thinking, you start calculating, you start doubting. Every touch feels heavier, every decision feels slower, every mistake feels bigger. And that's when confidence starts to disappear. Not all at once, but little by little, until one day, you don't recognize your own game anymore. You're still the same player, same talent, same ability, but you're not expressing it because you're not free. And freedom is everything in football. Without it, you don't take risks. Without it, you don't create. Without it, you don't stand out. You just survive. And surviving is not enough. Not for a player like Endrick, because players like him are not meant to survive. They're meant to shine, to take risks, to change games, but none of that happens. If you're afraid to make mistakes, and when fear enters your game, everything slows down. Everything becomes smaller. And that's how talent gets lost. Not because it disappears, but because it's never allowed to fully exist. And that's why the move mattered. Not because Lyon is bigger, not because the level is higher, but because the situation is different. Because at Lyon, he plays, and that changes everything. Because playing is not just about minutes, it's about rhythm, it's about confidence, it's about identity, it's about becoming yourself again. And that's exactly what started to happen. At first, it wasn't perfect. There were mistakes. There were moments of hesitation, moments where the old doubts were still there. But the difference was simple. He kept playing. He kept getting chances. He kept being involved. And slowly, things started to come back. The confidence, the movement, the instinct, the belief. He started taking risks again, started running at defenders again, started making decisions without hesitation. And that's when you see the real change. Because improvement is not always visible immediately. But confidence is, and when confidence returns, everything follows. Performance, impact, moments that remind everyone why he was special, why people believed in him, why he was worth the hype. And suddenly, he's not a question anymore. He's an answer to everything people were wondering before. An answer to every doubt, an answer to every what if. Because now, he's showing it, not in training, not in theory, on the pitch, in real games, in real moments, and that's what matters. But even now, the debate doesn't stop, because there are always two sides. Some people will say, this proves everything, that he was right to leave, that he needed this, that Real Madrid made a mistake. But others will say something different. They'll say, this is easier. This is not the same level. This is not the same pressure. Because playing at Lyon is not the same as playing at Real Madrid. And they're right. It's not the same. It's different. But that's exactly the point. Because the question is not, where is harder? The question is, where do you become better? Where do you grow? Where do you become the player you're supposed to be? Because right now, Endrick is playing. He's improving. He's evolving. And most importantly, he's becoming real. Not just potential, not just hype, not just a name, a real player. And maybe that only happens because he left, or maybe he walked away from something greater, something bigger, something he could have become. And that's what makes this story so interesting. Because there is no clear answer, only perspectives, only opinions, only questions. So now, it comes down to you. Did Real Madrid make a mistake? Or did Endrick simply choose the easier path? And if you were in his position, would you have stayed or would you have left?